Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? Matt here from YoVideogmes. I'm back again with some hands-on coverage from the Summer Games Fest Playdays, only this time it's going to be a little bit more rapid fire because this set of games I only got to go on hands-on for a very limited amount of time with each. So that being the nature of it is, I'm going to give you as much of an impression as I can, but I didn't get to play these long, but they all left a lasting impression, which also says something, you know, to the quality of these titles. So these were all from Day of the Devs, which is a sort of indie publishing arm of Double Fine Games. It's not games made by Double Fine per se. It's a bunch of indie titles that have sort of been picked up and gotten a little bit of a helping hand for exposure per se by Double Fine and a sort of outfit called Day of the Devs. Now you might remember this. It's an actual hands-on event that you can go to for free, and I did, with Nadia this year. So you can check out her channel. She's actually got a whole video on our trip for our first time going there this year. So they had a little follow-up at Summer Games Fest with about 10 or so games, indie games, all made from different developers. And I got one appointment which basically got me in for playing half of these games, but only for about 10 minutes each. So let me just go down the games I played for, again, about 10 minutes each, and I'll tell you exactly how I felt. The first one is called Building Relationships. This is a house building sim, and when I say that, I mean you are actually a house. This is the sort of manic energy from a very off-the-wall PlayStation 1 era game. It uses PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn style graphics, style textures and everything, and it's very apparent when you play it. You play as a literal house that rolls along, and you've gone to a sort of island for a singles event location. So you're a house and you roll around to meet other buildings and try to hook up with them. I'm not kidding. This is actually serious. Now, the controls take a little bit of getting used to because it uses a sort of semi-realistic physics of a building that can roll around. You do talk to other things such as chests who might give you things like jumping shoes, but you have to roll around on specific paths and environments, otherwise the building actually has trouble rolling up certain slopes and structures. It is extremely funny. It's full of weird and wacky innuendos. And one of the activities you can do besides trying to court other buildings is to go fishing, and the fish are of course represented by cars because why wouldn't they be? But you'll also find all kinds of things, or sometimes you'll hit on a building or sometimes a large chest, like a wooden chest, and it'll be like, oh, I'm in a polycule relationship with all the other chests on the island. See if you can talk to them, kind of thing. You'll talk to apartment buildings or windmills or whatever. So, if you've ever had a thing for architecture, this is the game for you. It's probably springing up a whole new genre for artists on Twitter as we speak. Anyways, this is, again, the sort of manic fun energy you would have gotten from something like Incredible Crisis, if anyone knows what that is, or Katamari Damacy on PS2. This is from that kind of style of thinking where anything goes. This is way out there. I actually had a lot of fun. The dialogue is, obviously the selling point here because just how they use, sort of innuendo and what is a building into? What kind of other building would a building like if a building could talk? If these walls could talk, what would they say? Well, apparently they're horny, because of course they are. So, Building Relationships is a crazy, weird little indie game born straight out of the PS1 era and made to look like a PS1 game. I actually recommend checking it out if you can. The next game I played was called UFO 50. Now, this one's probably going to be the most interesting to probably most people watching this video. It's a mock archive collection of games of all different genres. It's basically, there's a pretend company called UFO, and although I think there was a UFO publisher actually in a video game, but it is not related to that. Anyways, it's about a pretend video game company from the 80s, and you basically are playing 50 games that they made from the early 80s to the late 80s, and it covers every sort of genre and spectrum. And here's the crazy thing. They're full games. Like, they're actually full games. Like, now, your first game on the list is from, like, the early, like, 83 or something like that. And it's very slow, and controls are very stiff and whatever. And it plays like a computer game, like an MSX game from like, the early 80s. And then you get all the way up, and things play like late NES or TurboGrafx-16 style games at the end there. But I played, the first game I played was a sort of side-scrolling sort of Wizards and Warrior, but like even more basic than that. I played a Kunio-kun ripoff, or a River City Ransom style game, a full beat 'em up, multiple characters. There's a whole system of mechanics, unique to each character in the game. There's a Final Fantasy style RPG. There's shmups, vertical shooters, horizontal shooters, and they're full games. They're tough. This is kind of like if someone, went to Japan or to Hong Kong and brought back some bootleg cartridge, for the NES that contained the first 100 NES games ever made, and they just all shoved them onto one cartridge. That's basically what you're playing here. And again, some of these games are multiplayer. This is actually going to be a blast of a game for YoVideogmes to go through at some point. It's very much a love letter to Japan's and the 1980s of video game of that era. And I think definitely if you're a sort of retro gamer, this is for you, because while it's not actual real retro games, these are full games, and there's freaking 50 of them. So UFO 50 was actually very good. I highly recommend this one. The next game I played was called After Love EP, which is a visual novel / rhythm game from Jakarta. It's very much a sort of emotional roller coaster in the vein of 1,000 Times Resist, although it's not all crazy sci-fi like that. Think of something a little way more down to earth, like Scott Pilgrim meets the film Up. You play as a sort of awkward, teenager who's in a band, and he has a very on again, off again, or just sort of like, I don't know where the relationship is with his girlfriend, and then she suddenly gets sick and dies, and then he discovers, that there was a note that she'd given to him and he didn't read it before, and then he sort of has to get inspired and find his mojo, and his love of music again through his memories of her. So it's a visual novel, and then you will actually be playing, rhythm game style stuff when he's playing his guitar or whatever. So if that all sounds good to you, dive right in. Again, this is very much for a certain type of crowd. It's for people who like visual novels, who like very character-driven dramas, and people who also kind of like, rhythm games, like spiced in. I only got to play one rhythm game section, and it was very easy, but it's also the tutorial section of the game, so I can't really say how intense it gets for the rhythm section parts. But After Love EP, it was definitely very much a game from the heart. I don't say that to be cheesy, but yes, it's a very personal kind of game, and yeah, it's definitely for people who enjoy a little bit of a sad story. Stop looking at me like that. I know you're looking at me like that. I can see through your monitor. The next game I played was called While Waiting. This was very much something on like a slowed down version of WarioWare. In fact, it's basically WarioWare if waiting was the goal, not rapid firing through it. So basically you take a situation where your character will be in a scenario where they're waiting, like waiting for a bus, waiting for a taxi, waiting for something to happen, and you're in like a little space, and you basically have all these random different things you can do while your character's waiting. Just like a checklist, and then some of the things can get locked out where you do cause and effect, where if I do this thing, this will cause this to happen, but then it'll lock me out from seeing this. To explain it, it's kind of like you're at, like, one thing is like you're at a bus stop, but if you go and look to the left and do something to the left of the bus stop, you might miss your bus, so then you might have to do something over again, or you'll see like a billboard at the bus stop, and then like you can maybe do something with like the posters on the billboard, like put the sticker on a cat or something like that. It gets a little more involved than that, but it's definitely the game is meant to be played while you're waiting for something. Again, this is okay. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure the appeal of this. I appreciate the out there design and making a game intentionally made for people who have 5 minutes to kill while waiting for something, and calling the game while waiting is pretty neat and interesting. This is definitely one of those, like, I don't know how to sell this with any sort of hype, but yeah, just imagine a very slowed down version of WarioWare. And if this is on phone, I think this is actually going to be on PC and other things, but yeah, this is definitely the kind of phone game you'd want. I played it on a mouse and keyboard on a PC. I have no idea why you would play this game at your PC, again, unless you were, I don't know, waiting for an Uber driver or your food to get home or something. It's a time killer. you know, it's kind of the perfect game to play while taking a shit. So that was while waiting. And then the last game I played was called Phoenix Springs. This is a point-and-click neo-noir mystery. And when I say neo-noir, that's the color scheme. So if you've played, I get why Double Fine is helping, you know, get this game exposure, because it is straight out of LucasArts era, but a little bit more dark and serious. So yes, point-and-click game. You're playing a woman who's I think she's an investigative journalist or just a newspaper reporter, and her brother mysteriously dies, and she's basically investigating his death, and it's all done in these very stylized graphics that use a lot of neon colors but like noir shading and stuff. And yeah, it plays exactly like a 90s LucasArts or anyone else, you know, who used to make those style point-and-click games from that era. It functions exactly the same way, where you have to like really talk to the exact right people. You have to look in and, you know, click and search the right thing, and sort of like this, you know, this discovers this, so you click on this to get this thing, to talk to this person, to show that person, to talk to there, and that's how you progress. It's like a very linear progression from what I played. Again, not very long, but this plays out exactly like those 90s LucasArts point-and-click games, but it's very much more of a heavy set, you know. So hey, man, if you played the old PC point-and-click Blade Runner, you'll probably be right at home here. So that was Phoenix Springs. Definitely a game for a very specific audience, and it's definitely the audience that built Double Fine Studios. So that was my hands-on time with each game at Day of the Devs. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe some of these sound interesting to you, and check them out if they do, and I'll see you on the channel. Later, dudes.